Welcome to Living with Purpose. I am today with Lisa Goodman, a very dear friend, at their extraordinary home, which is a incredible collection of contemporary art, especially of emerging artists from around the world. Lisa and I share a birthday together, and Lisa is an entrepreneur, a social impact entrepreneur. She's a avid art collector and somebody that has spent a huge amount of time investing in the community. So please join me in welcoming Lisa Goodman. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Akhtar. It's just such an honor to be here.
You have this amazing journey. So I want to just share with our listeners your journey from Philadelphia to now playing this extraordinary leadership role in the community where you have one of the most influential art collections with your husband, Joseph Vastovich, you serving on these boards of Yale contemporary art museums, and the amount of work that you're doing, giving back into the community, not only through your art, but through your acumen as an entrepreneur. So just give us this journey of yours.
Sure. Thank you. I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia. I'd say a middle class, lower middle class upbringing with a single parent. And money was very tight. And when I was in fifth grade, I was selected to go to the UN. And I was greatly influenced to really see the world and see people that were so much more difficult for them. And it framed my small existence into a broader place of where I might belong. From there, with money tight and having to pay for college on my own, I became an entrepreneur. So I started businesses. I was mentored by small electrical contracting companies that taught me how to do books and accounting. Went to college and would do various jobs to create extra money so I could go skiing sometimes. But part of when I was in school, going to museums in New York, spending time around art was really that even of being around creativity and from being a hardcore business side.
So now you have this very interesting business journey, right? You kind of started off in this small little company, and then you moved on to doing far more impactful work. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I moved to Washington, D.C. I have a degree in biochemistry and nutrition. So I moved there with the aim of trying to improve health. When I was a kid, there was a Fruit Loops box saying Fruit Loops are as healthy as an apple. And I said, I need to do something about that. That's wrong information. So I got a job doing wellness programs for the federal government with the House and the Senate. I work with senators how to go to a cocktail party and not overeat. And I had the opportunity to meet with the head of the Public Health Service and tell them about what we were trying to do to improve the health of federal workers, and was able to land a contract. I built the trust with this person to land a contract for all of the federal government to do wellness programs with the support of Johns Hopkins. So smoking cessation, stress management. We did walking programs with the President's Council on Fitness where people could win Reebok shoes and prizes. And then from that, I was asked to speak in Seattle, actually, with the President's Council on Fitness on how do you engage employees? How do you motivate people? From there, there was an admiral who asked me to come on to the Navy and the Marines to work globally with active duty, retired, and families on health and physical readiness. I left this other startup because this was even a bigger opportunity to impact millions of people versus hundreds of thousands. And did that for several years, expanding into spouse abuse, child abuse, family services centers, but really to help these family members and active duty members get access to things to make their lives better, to be healthier, to be mentally better, and help families that were left alone while their loved ones were sent out and deployed for 6 months at a time. I then moved to Seattle, created a tech startup that I had the opportunity to sell, and then moved into doing commercial real estate, but around the guise of building better communities around inclusive economic development and other startups.
So on one side, you've kind of got this life where you're working, work is impactful, and then you've got this whole other life where you are with your husband, Joseph, one of the topmost collectors of contemporary art, especially emerging artists. And just talk a little bit about that journey and why that brings you so much meaning and joy.
Absolutely. So my life's work has been around equity. It's around how do you help those that may not have opportunities, that are underserved communities. Going back to federal workers and to communities in, say, in Washington State, rural communities that don't have access to things, and small minority businesses. And art was always something, when I lived in Washington, D.C., going to the Smithsonian, the Phillips Collection, I was asked to be on the board of the Kennedy Center, as well as DC Contemporary Dance. DC Contemporary Dance was around underserved, bringing art to underserved communities. So it was a joy to be able to do something opposite of business and to be with creative people.
So you're surrounded by all this art. Talk just a little bit about your philosophy of why you collect this art and how that brings value to the artists and into the larger community.
Sure. So we started collecting over 3 decades ago, and a focus on artists that are underrepresented, on getting those narratives out to both museums, to others. We feel like our role is to be a steward. So if we have the privilege to own the work, that our job is to amplify and share that work with others, whether it's with institutions. At any given time, we might have 35 to 50 works out on loan. We open our home on a regular basis to collectors, to artists, to curators, again, to amplify voices of people that aren't sometimes seen.
So one of the things that you had said, to me is that these are not just pieces of art that you collect, that you actually get to know these artists, you engage with them. They're actually your friend.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that and how is that shifting the way you think about how art should be viewed and the narrative around art.
Yeah. So part of our process and how we collect art is we almost always do studio visits. So 99% of the art on our walls are artists that we know. They're art friends. We can speak at length about their work because we spent time with them and listen. So I collect, and as a part of our couple, from the narrative standpoint, from the story. And my husband retired from Microsoft, went back and got a BFA, and this is more from a technique side. But we come together to have a full understanding of the artists and their practice, where they're going, what their story is. And we're able to take those stories and share it with others and help either mentor them with sometimes gallery placement, helping it get placed in a museum, either by a loan or a gift or a recommendation through being on various committees with institutions, sharing with others. We have a collective of other like-minded steward collective friends all over the world, in LA, New York, Texas, London, South Africa, Greece.
So, one of the things you also do is you serve on boards of these institutions. Talk a little bit about that and, how is that adding value to what you are doing and contributing back into the community?
So I'm on a Dean's Task Force at the Yale School of Art. Dean Kimberly Pinder is the first Black dean at Yale. And she came to Yale saying she wanted to make things differently. Not everyone has had women, people of color have not had exceptional experiences at Yale. And there's many people that can't go to Yale. Getting an MFA at Yale is kind of like maybe winning the lottery, that you go through that process and you're pretty much on a path for a fairly highly successful career as an artist.
Right.
Even with a full scholarship living in New Haven for 2 years, you would walk out with a lot of debt. And if someone with a family, it's also would be prohibitive. And someone with debt can also be exploited, extracted, make bad decisions, and by a gallery made because they need to make money to pay off their debt. So Pinder created an ethical MFA program that we hope will create leadership for other art schools. If Yale does it, other institutions with endowments will do the same. And it's a 5-pillar program with a debt-free MFA, health and wellness, professional development around business practices, accounting, contracts, opportunities for residencies. So we travel to Lagos, Nigeria, and there's going to be a residency, or there's residency with an amazing artist, Yinka Shonobari, a London-based Nigerian artist who has residency. That's a sustainable farm. So they're sending architects outside in Nigeria. So I'm really proud to be part of pretty much a think tank, a strategic, to really help Yale, a small group of people, including the artist Nicholson Thomas and other collectors from both the U.S. and internationally, do that important work.
Let's talk a little bit about purpose. So why is purpose important to you? And then how are you using purpose, especially to overcome difficulties?
I had this extraordinary opportunity to do an incredible program called Accelerating Social Transformation, led by Dr. Badshaw, I think 7-8 years ago. And through that process, I did an exercise of finding my purpose, and it was 100% spot on that I'm an advocate. And when I look back at my life, all my work is around how can I help someone? How can I take the skills as an entrepreneur, the network I've built, to be the scrappiness I've had as an entrepreneur? You're like a Swiss Army knife, where you're able to take out one tool or the other, and you're able to connect them all together, connect with others, help other people to try to make the world a better place.
I love this analogy of a Swiss Army knife, right? I mean, it is somebody that is actually willing to do whatever is needed to move forward. You kind of did that during COVID. You want to kind of briefly explain this whole process that you started to keep our communities safe and communities working through a program and an initiative that you led called Restart Partners?
So I had this exceptional opportunity during the pandemic when everyone was feeling hopeless about what could I be doing with what was going on in this very scary, unknown time. And some dear friends that were asked by the governor's office to help forecast PPE. These friends are tech entrepreneurs and really didn't have the business understanding of what different job codes are. And because I'm rooted in real estate and the real world and business, I was able to add value around that. And from there, we brought in other people like you, Akhtar, and the former dean of the Evans School, Dr. Sandy Archibald, and other multidisciplinary people to start working in a way that as private citizens, we could move very quickly, and as entrepreneurs, to raise money to not only forecast PPE using technology. We did mass campaigns, vaccination campaigns. We built an AI-powered app in 7 languages for small minority businesses, so to help give them the same resources a large company like a Microsoft or a Google has for their employees. But I'm working collectively as a community, involving universities, involving all parts of society, to move quickly to save lives and livelihoods. And I think we found that we had great impact. both from the work we were doing, but also the feedback that we had gotten from the communities, and then continuing forward work around inclusive economies, helping government, helping bring foundations, corporations together to work on issues like affordable housing, climate justice, small minority business, to help those in society that need our help.
One of the things that, Restart Partners became this collective where we were able to engage with the first 2 years of COVID, which is probably the most difficult time that most of us have gone through, and using our ability and driven through purpose, this group of people made a huge difference in fundamentally shifting the narrative around vaccination, masking, keeping businesses open and running. So thank you very much, Lisa, for driving that work and being a champion of small businesses and communities of color and people in need to be able to actually survive through that difficult time. Let's end by just you sharing with us your one golden nugget, a piece of wisdom that you would like to leave our listeners by.
I think it relates to humility and being humble. I really don't feel special, especially around when I'm sit with an artist, when I sit with an entrepreneur, an immigrant entrepreneur, for example, who has just built an incredible business, or someone that thinks 7 days a week on creating something. I think as a whole, together, we're much bigger than what we are as ourselves. I think having that opportunity to interact with people every day and hear their stories and listen brings me so much joy on a daily basis. And now knowing my purpose as an advocate underlies my day-to-day activity.
This is awesome. Again, these amazing nuggets, right? Of, hey, show up with authenticity, be humble, be inclusive. You can be just one piece of a much larger community. And if you start with somewhere small, you can actually make massive change. The art collection started small, but just focusing on emerging artists in South Africa and actually learning their stories. And from there, they've created this amazing portfolio of friends who are artists and community change makers. So, Lisa, thank you very much. Again, purpose is that renewable source of energy that drives humanity forward. And thank you very much for being part of this episode of Living with Purpose. Lisa, thank you very much for your time and opening up your home for us.
Thank you. It's been an honor.